Beneath the sun-scorched soil of southeastern Turkey, where winds sweep across the forgotten bones of empires and the earth guards its ancient secrets, something was uncovered, not by chance, but by patience, by persistence, by the tremble of a spade striking something not made of stone. 3 statues, buried side by side in the ruins of a site older than recorded time, older even than Göbekli Tepe, the world's oldest known temple. Figures carved with exquisite detail, yet disturbingly foreign. Each stood just under a meter tall, not human, not animal. Their heads were elongated, like teardrops stretched toward the sky. Their eyes, almond-shaped, unblinking, set wide apart. No mouths, no ears, only smooth, expressionless faces staring into eternity. Their limbs were spindly, too long for their torsos, fingers thin, graceful, unnervingly precise, and etched upon their chests strange symbols, neither Sumerian nor Hittite nor anything that could be matched with known ancient scripts. The local archaeologist who led the dig described the moment with a voice trembling from memory. "We thought we were unearthing idols. Instead, we found riddles." Some believe the statues are representations of gods. Others insist they are simply artistic abstractions. But even among the skeptics, a silence lingers. Because these are not the crude carvings of primitive hands. They are intentional, delicate, engineered, almost clinical. But the real question is not how they were made, it's why. Why do these statues, dated to over 12,000 years ago, so perfectly match modern-day descriptions of extraterrestrial beings, greys, watchers, sky people? Could it all be coincidence? Or is there something buried not just in the earth, but in our collective past? And if these beings were remembered as gods, what did they leave behind besides stone? Long before the rise of empires, before Sumerians etched their laws in clay or Egyptians raised pyramids to the heavens, Anatolia thrived as a cradle of mystery. Here, in the land that would one day be called Turkey, ancient peoples passed down stories not through books, but through stones and stars. One such tale, whispered from generation to generation in Kurdish and Turkish mountain villages, speaks of the Gökyüzü Gelenler, the sky arrivers. These were not gods in the traditional sense. They did not demand temples or offerings of blood. They came silently, clothed in light. Their skin was pale, their heads stretched, their eyes vast, and wherever they stepped, the air shimmered. In some versions of the tale, they were teachers, bringing knowledge of farming, mathematics, and astronomy. In others, they were feared, silent observers who returned to the sky when the stars aligned. And etched into rocks across Anatolia, researchers have found curious images, beings with bulbous heads surrounded by circular patterns. Some ride what appear to be wingless vehicles. Others are shown holding orbs, stars, tools, or something else entirely. Then there is the myth of the 3 Watchers, guardian spirits said to have come from the heavens and turned into stone to wait for a time when the earth would be ready to remember them. Coincidence? Or oral memory preserving a truth too ancient to prove, too unbelievable to accept? Because the 3 alien-like statues found in Turkey don't just resemble any creature from mythology. They match these watchers in uncanny detail, from their posture to the spacing of their limbs. One mural found nearby, dating back to the Neolithic period, shows 3 similar figures standing under a crescent moon, hands raised not in worship, but in command. Could these myths be fractured recollections of real encounters? Could the statues be literal tributes, not to gods, but to visitors? Or are we simply projecting our 21st century lens onto forgotten art? But then again, how does a civilization over 12,000 years ago carve what it has never seen? And why does that image appear again and again across time and continents? In 2021, after much debate and bureaucracy, the three statues were transported under high security to a research lab in Ankara. What followed was not a media spectacle, but a quiet series of tests, and a series of results that defied explanation. At first glance, the statues appeared to be made of simple stone, dark, smooth, cold to the touch. But under scanning electron microscopy, their structure revealed an astonishing secret. The surface was flawless. No tool marks, no chisel strokes, not even microscopic grooves common in ancient hand carving. It was as if the material had flowed into shape, then hardened with molecular precision. More troubling was the composition. Tests showed a composite material that should not exist in prehistoric Anatolia, a dense mix of silicon carbide, an extremely hard substance used in modern aerospace engineering, tantalum, a rare metal known for its resistance to corrosion and heat, and most baffling of all, a crystalline form of beryllium oxide, which requires conditions of purity and temperature that no ancient kiln could ever achieve. One metallurgist, reviewing the results, wrote anonymously, "If these readings are accurate, either we must rewrite the timeline of human technology, or accept that these objects are not the product of earth-bound development." But there was more. When exposed to magnetic fields, the statues emitted faint electromagnetic pulses, random, irregular, but undeniably present. The patterns, when charted, resembled signal fragments, not static, not noise, something encoded, a frequency, or merely the dying heartbeat of a device whose purpose we've forgotten? The lead researcher requested further testing. 2 days later, his lab was closed due to budget irregularities. Equipment was confiscated, files sealed. When questioned, the archaeologist who first discovered the statues simply said, "They're back where they belong. Some things shouldn't be disturbed too long." And yet, one sample fragment, mislabeled and left behind, was independently tested by a Swiss lab. Their verdict? The material appears to have been structured atom by atom, not carved, not molded, built. So who built it? And more importantly, why? The statues from Karahan Tepe are not alone. Across the windswept plateaus of Bolivia, deep in the subterranean tombs of Japan, and etched onto megalithic stones in Nigeria, eerily similar figures appear. Long heads, slanted eyes, thin limbs, strange markings or halos encircling the skull. Were these mere artistic coincidences, or evidence of a shared memory, one that transcended borders and oceans? Let us trace the echoes. In the Bolivian Andes, at Tiwanaku, an ancient city older than the Incan Empire, there stands a monolith called the Gateway of the Sun. It features a central figure, large-eyed, with rays shooting from its head. The locals speak of sky beings who taught them astronomy and agriculture. The shape of the figure's head? Strikingly elongated. Its pose? Identical to Statue 2 from Karahan Tepe. In Japan, in the Kofun burial mounds, archaeologists discovered dogu figurines, small humanoid statues with goggle-like eyes and bizarre suits that appear armored or pressurized. They are dated to 14,000 years ago. These figurines also bear uncanny resemblance to the Turkish statues, particularly in posture, body proportions, and the stylized patterns around the eyes and chest. Coincidence or remembrance? In Nigeria, among the Nok culture's ancient clay statues, one stands out, wide-shouldered, smooth-skinned, with almond-shaped eyes and a long, narrow head. Archaeologists classified it as ritual art. But what ritual calls for depictions of beings that don't resemble humans? Now consider this. None of these civilizations were connected by trade or communication. They emerged thousands of miles apart, often separated by centuries. And yet, the motif persists. Always the elongated skulls, always the gazes turned skyward, always the sensation that these figures are not of here, but of elsewhere. Could these be artistic memories of visitors once mistaken for gods? Or were they warnings, stories told in stone, hoping to be understood by future generations? Because across all cultures, the message is the same. They came from the sky, and they left us with questions. And now, as we unearth their likenesses, we're forced to ask, were these ancestors dreaming, or were they remembering? It was late autumn. The wind howled across the Turkish plateau, carrying dust over the excavation tents like a whispering veil. Most of the team had left Karahan Tepe for the season. Only a skeleton crew remained, and that's when it happened. A tremor, gentle but distinct, shook the soil near the northeast edge of the dig site. Curious, the remaining archaeologists scanned the area with ground-penetrating radar. They expected a fissure, a fault line. What they found was a void, roughly 5 meters wide, beneath layers of untouched bedrock, an ancient chamber. Access was difficult. The entrance had collapsed long ago, sealed beneath a landslide of time. But by December, they reached it. What lay beneath was not just dirt and dust, but intention. The chamber was circular, its walls smooth, polished as though by machines. Symbols spiraled along the stone, none matching known Sumerian, Hittite, or even early Anatolian scripts. But there were carvings, figures, 3 of them, identical to the alien-like statues. Same posture, same features, same elongated skulls turned upward as if listening. And in the center, a platform, smooth, concave, etched with a 3-point star. When one of the original statues, Statue 3, was temporarily placed upon it, something happened. A sound, low, resonant, barely audible, not mechanical, not wind, more like a frequency. One researcher described it as a chord played on a forgotten instrument. It didn't enter my ears, it entered my chest. Tests began immediately, but abruptly stopped. Within 2 days, a representative from an international Heritage Protection Council arrived. Access was revoked. The chamber sealed again. Photographs confiscated. The official statement read, "The chamber is geologically unstable and unsafe for further study." But insiders whispered something stranger, that the carvings pulsed under infrared light, that electromagnetic fields spiked inside the room, that one camera battery drained in seconds, while another mysteriously captured static footage for 23 minutes after being turned off. What was that room? A shrine, a beacon, a memory vault, waiting for minds advanced enough to unlock it? Perhaps the statues were not just images, but keys. Keys to a technology buried long before Babylon, to a message left not in words, but in design, frequency, and resonance. And if so, the question is not what we'll find when we return. The question is, what happens when it answers back? And so, we are left with a mystery. 3 statues carved not with primitive hands, but with deliberate elegance, unfamiliar proportions, eyes that never blink, yet seem to gaze beyond time. A chamber hidden for thousands of years, revealing forms too precise, too deliberate to dismiss, and legends echoing from Turkey to Bolivia to Japan and beyond. Different tongues, different temples, same vision. So we ask again, are these statues the fruit of imagination or fragments of memory? Could ancient peoples, isolated and pre-wheel, somehow craft images that align with modern descriptions of extraterrestrial entities? Or did they witness something? Not myth, not dream, but contact. Think for a moment. If a highly advanced species visited Earth millennia ago, how would they be remembered by those without written language, without scientific terms? They'd be etched into stone, woven into stories, worshipped as gods, or feared as demons. And their technology? Misunderstood, deified, buried. Perhaps the statues are not relics at all, but reminders, anchors left behind, quiet signals waiting for a generation not to fear, but to recognize, to remember, to awaken. Because if this is contact, distant, subtle, long forgotten, then we must ask, were we chosen? Or did we forget we were part of something greater? Now, dear traveler in time and thought, the question passes to you. What do you believe these statues truly are? A forgotten invention? A divine gift? Or the echo of an ancient encounter? Share your theories in the comments below. Your voice might light the next spark of understanding. And if this mystery stirred your curiosity, like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next journey into the unknown. Because out there, in the ruins, in the myths, in the stars, the truth may not be buried, it may be waiting. Until next time, keep your eyes wide open, and your mind even more so.